Hey, it's the weekend. Actually, it's the 4th of July weekend. And when the weekend comes, so does Michael Snyder if he's lucky. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Alex, and happy holiday weekend to everybody. It's Midsummer Madness, and we've got some movie reviews and such. Shall we get going?
You better do it or I'll get mad.
I wanted to go ape crazy for The Legend of Tarzan, yet another reinvention of a hoary but familiar property. Author Edgar Rice Burroughs' beloved adventures of an Englishman who's raised in the jungle to become a vine-swinging, animal-speaking champion of the endangered beasts, oppressed tribesmen and unwitting outside interlopers. But despite the big bucks, I mean lots of dough, spent on shooting in beautiful exotic locations, making you think a finely muscled man could swing impossibly through the jungle on a vine, and many wild animals, including tribes of apes, coming to life via computer effects. It was a disappointment, very kind of plodding, but at least it tries to address the evils of colonialism in Africa, and does so with a white hero and heroine. Well done. Anyway, Tarzan is gamely played by Alexander Skarsgård, who people know and love from True Blood. He's John Clayton III, Lord Greystoke, raised as a foundling in the jungle by a mama ape to become Tarzan, the ape man, and king of said jungle. And Jane, his wife, an American, is played by the lovely Margot Robbie. She, of course, has succumbed to some variation of jungle fever. She loves this man. Anyway, Greystoke and his wife are living in England after their years in Africa, and they're asked to return after these proper dull lives on their British manor at the request of Parliament to be trade emissaries. Well, it's actually Tarzan, or Greystoke's got to be the emissary, but it's a trap set by a henchman of the greedy king of Belgium. The movie does reunite Django Unchained co-stars Christoph Waltz and Sam Jackson in the Congo. Waltz is the villainous, exploitive hand of the Belgian king, and Jackson, I don't know, they had to have an African-American co-hero with Tarzan to sort of balance out the colonialism. He plays an American envoy. And as a bonus, you get Djimon Hounsou as Chief Mbonga, an angry African tribal leader with a grudge against Tarzan. And Casper Crump, who's the immortal villain Vandal Savage in DC's superhero shows. He's a creepy mercenary. I like the contemporary socio-political aspects. The cast is great. Parts of it were fun and rollicking, but obvious CGI took me out of it, and the script felt like the Tarzan stories were put in the Scripto 3000, and out popped this familiar property, done yet again, directed by David Yates, who did a handful of Harry Potter movies. This is product that will come and go and not be venerated like the source material. The Purge election year, much better film, believe it or not. The latest in the violent, politically charged dystopian movie series about an annual holiday from lawfulness instituted by future America's controlling political party, the New Founding Fathers, in order to thin the herd and satisfy everybody's uglier impulses, all their bloodlust, because, you know, Americans are filled with bloodlust, for one short period a year. And this movie, like its two predecessors, is like a cool B-movie cloaked in a patina of social satire. In this one, a crusading senator played by Elizabeth Mitchell, who you may remember from Lost, is determined to bring down the New Founding Fathers at the next election. She's going to beat their chosen candidate, a religious fanatic who's in the pockets of the New Founding Fathers. And their plan is to get her on the next Purge Day in Washington, D.C., and her head of security, played by Frank Grillo, he's got to keep her alive somehow during this 12-hour period. And so it's a chase, and it's exciting, and then there's like some working-class people involved, and they all team up against the evil, the angry, purging lunatics, and you get what you expect. But I kind of got a kick out of it. Written and directed by James DeMonaco. It's exploitive. It's a B-movie, but you know what? I enjoyed the hell out of it. I liked it more than the BFG, which is the latest Steven Spielberg film, a tall tale, if you will, about a young girl, an orphan, who befriends a kindly giant in the streets of London late at night in the 80s. And this giant is considered an outcast by every other giant because he's he doesn't have an appetite for children. That's right. They come and steal kids and eat them and go back to Giant Land. Anyway, this is based on a children's book by the great Roald Dahl, who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, and Matilda, among other dark treats that have also made it to the big screen. And this, for all of the effort and visually impressive tech and the fine actors involved, because, hey, man, the Giant is played by Mark Rylance. And even though it's a motion capture performance, it's pretty damn good. Despite all that, it's not up to these other adaptations. It's kind of overstuffed and aimless. And this, like the Tarzan movie, drags when it shouldn't be. And it's kind of whimsical, as in haphazard in its storytelling. The giant and the little girl, who, by the way, is inoffensively played by a young actress named Ruby Barnhill, they end up at Buckingham Palace in the 1980s, complete with Elizabeth Windsor and her corgis. And it's, I don't know. Look, you got talent involved. Penelope Wilton, by the way, does a pretty good Queen Elizabeth. You know, Rafe Spall and Rebecca Hall in some live action roles, and some voice acting by some renowned people like Bill Hader and Jermaine Clement. But ultimately, I was kind of left a little cold by it. A lot of sound and fury, written by the actual screenwriter of E.T., Melissa Matheson, reuniting her with Spielberg. This is not one of Spielberg's better films. The BFG, family friendly, but left me a little cold. Our Kind of Traitor is more my speed. Intrigue in North Africa, in Paris, in the Alps and London, as Ewan McGregor and Naomi Harris play a husband and wife who are on a bit of a second honeymoon, and they're in Marrakech, and they befriend a Russian money launderer, beautifully played by Stellan Skarsgård. And this adapts a John le Carré novel. And, of course, they get in over their heads. And if you like The Night Manager, the wonderful 6-episode adaptation of le Carré's novel, this is for you. But it's not in any way as good and as rich as The Night Manager. But it is le Carré with twists and turns and international intrigue and espionage. And it's done well. And you've got the great international settings, a good story, good actors, and a lot of tension. Eventually, the guy in the couple, Perry, is recruited by British Secret Service folks to kind of deal with this money launderer who wants out of the business. Anyway, I thought it was pretty much right in my wheelhouse, directed by Susanna White, adapted by Hossein Amini, who's done some cool British TV and film stuff. I give a recommendation to those of us who like this sort of thing. Our Kind of Traitor is my kind of movie. Quickly, Life Animated is a very unique documentary about a young man with autism who eventually finds a way to get in touch with his inner child and grow a little bit, and also communicate with his family by embracing Disney animated movies. So it's a coming of age thing as we meet Owen as he's moving into adulthood, and we see his obsession with Disney, and it's sort of moving in a way, and it's very intimate. We meet the entire Susskind family, and you know, it's got its moments. And your friend Gilbert Gottfried makes an appearance in this movie. Life Animated is a fascinating story, and it gets a little strange when you think about how much Disney has basically infiltrated every corner of Western civilization, and that maybe is a little creepy, but it's very sweet to see how it gives this kid who's got so many emotional problems a chance to like hang on to something and lead a life. So Life Animated gets the approval from yours truly. Finally, let's wrap up with The Innocents. In The Innocents, World War II has just ended. It's December 1945, and a dedicated French female Red Cross doctor, played by a relative newcomer, I think, Lou Delage, tries to help a group of pregnant Benedictine monks at a convent in Warsaw, Poland. Only the bulk of the occupying army is Russian, and many of the soldiers are coarse and dangerous. Spoiler alert, I mean, how else did so many nuns end up with child? So we see the doctor as she works with her colleagues to treat the last of the injured French soldiers who are slated to return home, and as she dallies with a fellow French doctor. Sure, he's never going to see her again when the two of them leave the war zone, but mostly we see her trying her best to deal with the nuns who are trying to keep their dignity and their fealty to their God despite the horrors of war that have been visited upon them, and despite a hardline mother superior who is not always operating in their best interests. This is dark and tragic and a little hopeful, and it's a piece of history, yep, based on a true story. Directed by Anne Fontaine, a favorite of mine, who directed Gemma Bovary and Coco before Chanel, and my favorite of her films, The Girl from Monaco. This is not her best, but it's heartfelt and still relevant today, with an investigation of unpunished abuse of women by men with weapons and their systemic oppression, and how religious fervor tries to trump, pardon the expression, good sense and modernism. I thought The Innocents was a very good film.
Okay, well, that's about it, I guess. Nothing here. Yeah. Nothing here.
Anything on the tube?
No,
nothing?
Nothing on the tube.
You back on the Ray Donovan tip?
Well, I've always been on the edge about that show.
Fun. It's a soap. I enjoyed the first episode of The Night.
I like shows where there's somebody you can root for.
Oh, I know. He is a bastard. No, have you seen The Night Of? That's a...
yes, I saw the first one. Very good.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. What channel? HBO, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going on, and there are a few other things here and there. Have you ever seen The Tunnel, which is the Franco-British adaptation of The Bridge? I've heard good things, but I haven't seen it.
I didn't like The Bridge, so I don't think I'll like The Tunnel.
Hey, you know what? Bridge and Tunnel, those people make me very uncomfortable. Anyway,
well,
that's it.
The only thing that I find interesting this weekend is it's an all-star Skarsgård family weekend.
Oh. Well, that's true.
Because you've got Stellan Skarsgård in that Le Carré movie, and you've got his son playing Tarzan.
Swinging from the trees, I guess so. Okay, so forget about July 4th. It's Skarsgård weekend.
Yeah, it's Skarsgård weekend.
Yeah. All right, you can check me out at Twitter, at Culture Blaster, and on Facebook at the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page. Check in, like it, listen to Alex and yours truly, and hopefully we'll be back next weekend with more news and blues.
Okay, Michael, thank you, and there's more Gabnet coming right up.